Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Soul with the Love, where we explore that love is safe, and if it's not safe, it's not love. Today we have beautiful Carly and super great guy Jordan Boxer coming on
Thanks.
to give us some interesting topics for relationships. You just came back from Dubai.
Mhm.
Jordan, you want to tell us something that you
Yeah, no, I
explored
was.
over there?
It actually, this conversation comes up a lot, especially even in Toronto. There's a lot of single women in the city. And the one thing I hear consistently is like, I can't seem to find like a man in the city. And there's a lot of women and there's a lot of men. And I don't understand why there's so many single women, but where are all the single men? Like the balance seems to be a bit off. But um, the common narrative is that women don't feel like there's any true men left in the city. Which today I think we're going to talk about, like, what does that even mean? Like, what's a true man? Like, what characteristics are they talking about that's lacking out there in the dating world? Um, so
But
Carly,
that,
like,
can I stop you? Because I'd
yeah,
like to hear what Carly has to
that's what I
say.
was going to say. Carly, you're sort of like our gauge. You're a single woman in the city. Like, what do you feel when I say that sentence or that statement?
So the issue is when you go out, you have to ask first if they are married, if they're in a relationship, and then you go from there. Because often what happens is men who aren't single are out and about, and it creates a lot of conflict. Also,
Okay.
I will agree with that statement. When I go out with my friends and we go to bars, zero men approach us. Zero. We're out looking for a good time and nobody approaches us. So I feel like right now there's like this weird kind of energy in the air. And
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like there's too many single women. It's like oversaturated, but I don't even know if that's actually the truth of the matter. I just think that people are kind of maybe not, I don't know, maybe things are just different right now.
That I was actually listening to a podcast where they had a speed dating event, and it was something like 95% women and 5% men showed up. So I think this is was in a different country, it was outside of Toronto, but what has happened where it's like these dynamics have broken down? Like, Lise, you deal with a lot of people. Like, what do you see as like the common thing that's changed recently?
And for me, it's not as much the dynamics, because if you look at the demographics, there's as many men as there are women
Mm-hmm.
in Toronto. But I think what a lot of what's going on is the quick online dating is causing some challenges. Swipe left, swipe right, and then you get all excited. You see sexy pictures because it's so easy to take sexy pictures nowadays.
Especially with AI, yeah.
Especially with AI, you can make anything, happen. And then people go on dates, and if the man is supposed to put himself out there and be the romantic one and take charge, and then what ends up happening is it's disappointing, then they don't want to get hurt again. Just as much as women don't want to get hurt, the guys get tired of going on dates that don't lead anywhere. And especially they feel they're supposed to pick up the tab and do all these things. So there's a lot of that coming out. And this is I know I'm not going to be popular with this, but if you want a good dating app, take one where first when you see someone, you have a lot of information on them. Because like if you want to buy a new camera and it's going to cost you like a really good camera, you're going to want to see, all the data about it. You want to know the detail. Does it take wide angles? Like it doesn't do like you want to have details. You don't just want a picture of the camera. And you go, oh, it looks like a nice camera. No, you want to have details. So you want to know whether or not to buy the camera. So that's part of if you are online dating, I know they're not as cool, but go on like Match, for example. There's a lot of
Does that
people
still
on
exist?
Match. Yeah, it still exists. And on Match, they ask you to write about your profile and what you like to do, what you don't like to do. And even there, the algorithms are not that sophisticated yet, but you have a better chance. But it's really about being really clear on who you are and the values that you're looking for in a partner. And if you're looking for a real relationship, it's important not to give the impression that you're in just for a good time. Like and it's important to state, I'm looking for a long-term relationship. And if that's not what you're into, if you are busy with somebody else and you just want to fling, I am not available for that. Like, and just be very specific about who you are and what you want.
So you know what's actually, to go ADD here a little bit. When I started my Hardy Method coaching program, I originally wanted to work with men, but what ended up happening is I had a 95% female client base and 5% male client base. So it was like overwhelming female to male. And one of the biggest issues, which I think is, or problems we were trying to solve, is like they would come and say, I just can't meet a guy. Like, and you know, something I learned from you was like, a lot of times it's your own internal environment. You need to switch to be able to resonate in what you want. So I would always sort of start, especially if that was a thing. I'm like, okay, well, let's write down like, what do you want in a man? And then like, Carly, are you comfortable to share like your list? I want to see if Carly fits into like what I used to see, or if it's a little bit different.
In terms of what I look for
Yeah,
in a
like what are the
man?
top 5 qualities? Like, what are your first 5 qualities?
Um, that's a tough one. I don't really know, to be honest. I'm in the stage now where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have so much of like a list or qualities that I look for, because all of those guys that I have seen in the past have been boneheads. But generally what I look for is somebody who makes me laugh, somebody who's honest, someone who can communicate. If I'm not thinking about looks at all, but I have to be somewhat attracted to them. Otherwise, that's not going to work. But
So you're already at like a step down from what I used to see. When I used to ask my clients, like, what are you looking for? It was like, I want a guy who's tall. I want a guy who's successful. I want a guy like this. It was all superficial things. And what I would force them to do is go into the feeling of like, okay, so you say you want somebody tall. Why? What does that actually mean for you? Well, I want to feel safe. So I'm like, okay, so you actually don't care if somebody's tall. What you really want to do is feel safe. And we'd go through this exercise to get like, I would actually make them do 108 qualities because of some mystical number stuff. But I always said, look, you have to go a step below the surface. And then what would happen more often than not, they had a better gauge of what they were looking for. Their lens was open up a little bit more. And then they would end up finding somebody that fits into that like thing that they were looking for. But I think the problem with online dating, to your point, Lise, is you don't get past the superficial when you're on there. Like it's overwhelming. Like I think there's a book called Modern Love by Aziz Ansari. He wrote it, and he went into some like data off of OkCupid and a couple of the other dating sites, and it was like the amount of men that women will swipe no on is like it's like 20% of men get noticed and 80% of them don't. But I think that's because, to your point, it's like you get a snapshot of the superficial, but you can't see anything past that. So if you're only searching for the superficial, and let's just use tall for an example, and you set your filter to 5'11" or 6 feet plus, what if there was a really good guy there who's 5'9" that made you feel safe, but because he put 5'9" in the algorithm, you never get to see him. And then it sort of shuts off all these other things. So I don't know if that was too ADD of a thought, but as you were speaking,
No,
yeah.
it's really interesting to hear, what you're saying, because what we want at the core is some feelings. And I to be able to attract a perfect, consciously loving relationship, first you need to know you're worthy of love. And we all have stories, because all of us grow up creating stories about what's wrong with us if we're not getting what we want. The second thing is we must know that love is safe.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I say every time, love is safe. If it's not safe, it's not love. Because your subconscious mind is there to keep you alive. And if it believes that if you go out there, you're going to get hurt, what do you think it's going to do? It's always going to bring the wrong guy or the wrong woman. It's not going to allow you to feel. It's like there's something actually mystical when you allow yourself to claim who you want to be with. Because the only way you're going to be able to claim who you want to be with is if deep down you feel worthy of having it. And then if you have realized that love is safe, and in the past when you got hurt, it was not because it was love, it was because it was infatuation. That's why it's so important to know the difference. So there's something actually mystical that happens when you align those three things together. Doing the inner work that we teach in the Soul Worthy Love program, doing the inner work that allows you to know, not in your head, because you know you're worthy of love, but we have all kinds of stories to the opposite. And then the second thing is really observing what you felt was love before and just to realize, oh my goodness, that's why it didn't work. It's because it was not actually love. It was just infatuation, or I was in need of something and this person came and for a while they were taking the need away. So second is to know that love is safe. And the third one, being crystal clear on who you want. And once you have those three things, it's like it's a mystical experience of sending the energy into the world, and then your mate can find you.
You know,
And
I've been because Victoria and I are getting married, so it's like we're going through like what does marriage mean? And a big part of that, of marriage is like from what we're reading, I know, we don't have any experience in it right now, but we're getting towards that, is like you're with somebody who's in it with you. Like when you actually think about what it is, not now I know the divorce rates are through the roof, but it's like you're in this thing with somebody and it allows people to go into their lows and also come into their highs and you sort of work together. Like, and it's something I picked up from you, which I still apply in my relationship is like if we're mirrors of each other, we're going to mirror each other's inadequacies often. So if it's like, and I think this is where a lot of relationships fall apart is like the mirror happens, you feel something that you don't like, you blame the other person and you say it's their fault, and then the easiest solution is just to peace out and book it versus like you always told this story about like one of your clients who came to you, she was divorced 3 times and it took her till the third divorce to be like, okay, I'm the constant in all my divorces. And if they got a little bit clearer on what it means to have that match and you do go that level down where it's like I want someone who brings out my dark side and my shadow, but then can work through it with me. Then I bet you if that's one of your things, like your chance of getting divorced is very, very low.
yeah, like this is what I say. The aim of a relationship is not to make you happy or miserable. The aim of a relationship is to teach you how to love you, how to love another person, because when you love, you feel happy. So a relationship will make you happy, but not because someone on the outside comes and takes our pain away, but because through this person, we have the capacity to grow in intimacy with ourselves, with our own heart, to be grateful for who we are, what we do, and what we have, and then being able to learn how to love. And one of the way people often learn about this is through having kids. Kids force you to learn to love. It's fascinating. You don't have a choice. Once you have a kid, you won't let it go. It's your kid. So if we can do the same thing in a relationship and go, all right, I'm committing to this person, and through this person, I'm going to learn how to love, that can be amazing. So this is what we have for this section of our Soul With Love podcast. We would love to hear your comments. What do you think? Please join us and just comments and be part of the community. Bye for now.
Bye.
Ciao.